You'll drop a play, Statue of Liberty, Hail Mary, West Wing style, and you're gonna get a button hook through the end zone. It's that's the dream. Like, okay, we're gonna play hardball, and then it all fell apart, and there was nothing there because the margins were non-existent with the Republican Party right there in total opposition. Like, those are the game time conditions that make the sort of Clintonian politics that they're all practicing impossible. They cannot do what they used to be able to do.
And Matt, you're totally right that the MSNBC brain people, like when responding to that like Biden quote where he called Mitch McConnell rational on gun control, of course they didn't believe it, but they defended it on the grounds like, look, in politics, like you can't insult your opponents.
Yeah, he's like his opposition is up to his feelings.
Yes.
People talk about how Mitch McConnell is like this tactical genius. He literally could be a fucking tortoise. He could be a tortoise who had an office, and all he had to do, like Homer Simpson when he was like working from home, is tap the button that says no instead of yes. Vent explosive gases, no. That's all you have to do, because he has a unified caucus and control of this fucking machinery, and they have a clear objective. Don't let Democrats do anything.
As long as Mitch gets like 1 or 2 leaves of iceberg lettuce to gnaw on every day, just swallow that down, he's fine.
You cannot triangulate that.
Nope.
And the entire premise of Clintonian democratic politics that filled the gap left by the collapse of the old New Deal coalition and labor politics was through these baby splitting triangulative negotiations, and they got to all feel like pragmatic geniuses for figuring out how to make this machine work, and they all got praised as gods by Aaron Sorkin types. And you can make an argument that given the conditions at the time where the electorate was, they were doing what the Democrats had to do to hold power. But the thing is, they're still clinging to those strategies when the conditions have changed and made it impossible for them to work. So no matter how less senile the other Democrats are, who like might not agree with Biden's fantasy of like that Republicans switching around, they're also still captured by just as deep a delusion about the conditions that we live on and about how politics works.
Well, okay, like that's one strategy, but like, what are some new strategies? A West Wing shakeup? Speculation is churning that Biden could shake up the West Wing staff, although that's not about to happen right away. Multiple people close to the White House said that they've heard that Chief of Staff Ron Klain will depart at some point after the midterms. Okay, so at that point, It's not really a shakeup. The midterms are already over. I mean, this thing, like unspoken in all this is they're like, which
you don't want to change. You don't want to rearrange deck chairs in mid sync.
Wait till it hits the bottom, and then you can. It's all stabilized, and you can rearrange the deck chairs to your heart's content.
Yeah. We're sending James Cameron down to fix the Democratic Party, and but yeah, like the articles are like which could see his party lose control of Congress in the midterms. Like, does anyone believe? Like, they all accept it. Like, there's no way.
Everyone knows that.
Everybody knows that there is nothing that could happen that's going to stop the Republicans from
every one of these articles that is now going to come out between now and election day and have already been coming out for months. These are all people setting up their alibis with the media. That's it. Where was I and what was I doing when this thing that I know is going to happen happened? So I can't be held responsible.
All right. I mean, like, this is just some speculation on how, like, who could come in, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, sorry, and any assessment of Biden's performance needs to take into account the epic challenges he faced from the start. They came in with the most daunting set of challenges. They came in with the most daunting set of challenges, arguably, since Franklin D. Roosevelt, only then to be hit by a perfect storm of crises, from Ukraine to inflation to the supply chain to baby formula, said Chris Whipple, the author of the book about White House chiefs of staff, who is now writing a book about the Biden presidency. What's next? Locusts? Biden wonders the same thing.
Ukraine is one that's like, I'm sorry, this is another deal where you got what you asked for. The Biden administration's diplomatic position on Ukraine and the conditions they imposed on Zelensky were basically guaranteed to provoke an invasion. So that's one where you got to go, I'm sorry. Once again, you got what you ordered perfectly as you wanted it on the fucking menu. What do you want? Stop complaining. Congratulations, you got your war in Ukraine. It's a propaganda machine. You get to dump all this money into the defense. Now what are you going to do? Just complain about it? Just going to bitch about the thing I got?
No. No, like this is, I mean, this is their big W, because they pulled out of Afghanistan, but like, oh, where does that $3 trillion in defense spend, like, to
Yeah.
defense contractors? Oh, well, Ukraine war, just give Javelin missiles to Nazi Al Qaeda for the next 30 years. That should
No
be
problem
good.
there. Awesome. Solve that problem. Fix. But that's the thing. All these things are happening separately. There's no connection. It's little hives of bureaucrats pursuing their bureaucratic objectives, which largely are, in one direction, but politically are totally in conflict. And they have nobody at the top who can coordinate them, because there's no disciplinary mechanism to actually impose anything like an agenda on Democrats under any definition of that term.
Under the subhead managerial breakdowns, it says here, amid a rolling
managerial breakdowns,
amid a rolling series of calamities, Biden's feeling lately is that he just can't catch a break. Biden is frustrated. If it's not one thing, it's another, said a person close to the president. An assumption baked in.
President of the United States of America. At what point do you think that this job is not going to be one damn thing than another?
You don't have to be crazy to work here, but it helps.
Yeah. Remember when Lincoln Chafee ran for president as a Democrat? And he'd been a Republican. He'd been a liberal Republican, the last real liberal Republican in the Senate. But he had some votes that were, pro-conservative. And he gets up there and they go, "Why did you vote for this?" And he goes, "You got to understand, my dad had just died. I just got appointed to a Senate seat. I was sad." Like, Biden should be like, "Look, you got to get it, Matt. My old man, he kicked the bucket in 1962. I can still remember it like it's yesterday."
Like, he could take out the bow thing again. It's like the burn pits killed him, man.
Yeah, man, burn pits.
He should get in touch with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and wish for some better messaging options.
Because it says, an assumption baked into Biden's candidacy was that he would preside over a smoothly running administration by dint of his decades of experience in public office. Mm-hmm. Yet there are signs of managerial breakdowns that have angered both him and his party. Biden is annoyed that he wasn't alerted sooner about the baby formula shortage. Okay, that's a lie. Biden is mad that he wasn't alerted sooner about baby formula, period. Yeah. I don't. He was just like, I thought it came from the titties.
They can make that. They can make that with science now. Since when?
He goes, and that he got his first briefing in the past month, even though the crisis had long been in the making. His nominee to the head of the Food and Drug Administration, Dr. Robert Califf, told Congress last week that the agency was sluggish and that it had made suboptimal decisions as parents hunted for formula on empty store shelves. Beyond policy, Biden is unhappy about a pattern that has developed inside the West Wing. He makes a clear, succinct statement, only to have aides rush to explain that he actually meant something else. The so-called cleanup campaign, he has told his advisors, undermines him and smothers the authenticity that has fueled his rise. Worse, it feeds a Republican talking point that he's not fully in command.
No.
The issue came to a head when Biden ad-libbed during a speech in Poland that Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. Within minutes, Biden's aides tried to walk back his comments, saying he hadn't called for Putin's removal and that U.S. policy was unchanged. Biden was furious that his remarks were being seen as unreliable, arguing that he speaks genuinely and reminding his staff that he's the one who's president. I mean, this is a situation where you got to sympathize with the staff here.
Yeah, the argument here is that Biden should be able to more loosely threaten World War III. That's the key to his fucking popularity. I guess if the nukes start flying, you don't have to worry about, turnout
baby formula,
Waukesha County.
Look, the staff just needs to get out there and say the thing about Biden is you got to take him seriously, not literally.
The next subhead is Democrats unnerved. Biden's angst is ripping through the party. Democratic lawmakers are sparring among themselves and blaming the White House for their dim prospects in November. Representative Stephanie Murphy, a Democrat of Florida, said the White House has failed to put forward what she called an intellectually honest plan to combat inflation. If I sound frustrated, it's because I hear from my constituents, Murphy said. They're struggling. This is not a time for political games. It is not a time for finding boogeymen. And then under Biden's frustrations, it says here, Biden has vented to aides about not getting credit from Americans or the news media for actions he believes have helped the country, particularly on the economy. unemployment rates have dropped to below 4%, pre-pandemic levels. But polling indicates that Americans believe the economy is in bad shape. Biden grouses that Republicans aren't getting their share of the blame for legislative gridlock in Congress, while he's repeatedly faulted for not getting his agenda passed.
He's the president.
He's the decider.
I mean, he's complaining that the same kind of like loose attention that people mostly pay to politics that makes them kind of casually associate the president in power with whatever is happening, and you can say that's unfair. And that's what he's complaining about. But it's that same attitude towards politics that lets a fucking guy like Joe Biden end up president in the first place.
Exactly.
Exactly. Once again, these are the politics that have allowed you to flim-flam your way into the fucking White House on some fucking fake Irish bullshit. Some fucking glad-handing fucking VFW song and dance. And part of that is that these people think the president's in charge. Well, now you're in charge of that. What are you going to do about it? Quit fucking whining. Again, shut the fuck up.
And like this kind of frustration, Matt, that you're talking about, like I see this from like sort of Democrat MSNBC brain people. When people like, like whether it's Texas or like guns or like baby formula, when people are just like angrily just say like do something, like this is what we elected you for. The stock response